and then we're getting down to the wire, and Tim was on Wings at the time, still working on Wings, and we brought him in, and he had an innate feeling for it and how it should be played, and there was also this kind of because Batman is such a dark character. He's human, and he's got all the human foibles.
But he doesn't have to be likable.
That's right.
But Superman
has to be likable, and he has to also have a sense of justice and what is right and what is honorable and the right way to do things. And so it needed to have that kind of
core
light,
decency.
Right. And I say light, not in any kind of, I don't mean like in a necessarily a vocal cord, I just mean it had to have that kind of sensibility about it. And he really captured that very well. Yep. And so I remember we were doing a massive casting, and it was right before Thanksgiving. And again, we were like, well...
We didn't find anybody we liked.
We did have like a couple we were like, well, this could work.
Yeah, there was one guy that we loved.
Can we talk about that?
There was one, he's a very well-known actor, and we loved him. He was terrific.
And we said, fine, we're happy.
Yeah.
How is your schedule? We're talking about starting recording, next a week and a half from now. Yeah. And he said, oh, I leave tomorrow for Broadway. I'm on Broadway for the next 8 months.
It's like, why did you come in and audition?
Sure, make us love you and then leave.
Yeah,
just like a man.
That was tough. That was tough. James and I were heartbroken. It was like he was really good.
He was really good. And so,
was it Kevin in disguise?
It was.
And so I remember we were down to the wire because the holidays were coming. We knew that actors were going to scatter all over. Right. We wouldn't be able to get anybody. And Tim came in, and we just went, you know what? Absolutely. And I believe...
I wasn't even there for his audition. I was
home.
No
kidding.
Because my wife was pregnant with my daughter.
That's right. That's right. And he came in, and I believe that what we did was, because we hadn't really set exactly what the voice was going to ultimately sound like, and we played with some pitch tests, which is, that pure technique of just pitching a voice higher or lower, depending if I wanted to sound bigger, stronger, deeper, younger, whatever. And I think we pitched him down just a little bit.
Maybe.
And then I think as we progressed through the series, he no longer needed to be pitched down because he got a sense of what it was.
Well,
and
after
what was
he
going
met
on.
Kevin.
Exactly. After he worked with you.
There you go.
And you guys had known each other before.
Yeah.
By the way, Bruce, Kevin was asking me earlier why your daughter's not named Kevin.
Kevin, no.
What were you thinking?
So Public Enemies really is a villain-driven story. I mean, this all starts with Lex Luthor being elected president, and we have our two main guys reacting to that, and
he finds an excuse to set a bounty on Superman's head and send all the villains in the world after him.
And we're lucky enough to have Clancy Brown play Lex. Now, in my sort of imagination, he's dressed as the Kurgan from Highlander as he does his lines, but I imagine that's not quite how he showed up to his initial audition.
No, he did. Yeah, he did. He showed up to that.
Casual.
No, as a matter of fact, when we first brought Clancy in to audition, it was for the Superman series, and he was being brought in to read for Superman. And so he puts the copy in front of himself, and he reads the copy, and he's a terrific actor. He's just wonderful. But as soon as we heard his voice, as I recall, we went, well, we have to have him.
We actually thought about him as Superman for like 5 minutes. I mean,
absolutely.
After hearing his audition, we're kind of went,
we could go that way.
It's interesting.
We could go there.
It's just not quite what we want for Superman. And we already had somebody that we liked as Lex Luthor. We already had somebody pretty much already cast. We hadn't made the deal yet. Right. But we'd found somebody that we really liked as Lex.
Right. And then we thought, let's have him read as Lex.
Yeah.
And we had Clancy.
And we kind of knew he didn't want to.
Actually, we didn't yet know, because I said, as I recall, I said, Clancy, would you mind reading for Lex Luthor? And he goes, am I never going to get to play a good guy? Am I only ever going to get to play the bad guys? And I said, oh, if you don't want to read it, no, of course I'll read it. I'm happy to read it, of course. Yeah. And then he read it, and we're like, well, I'm sorry, but you have to be Lex Luthor for everything we do from now on, because you're just brilliant. And he was,
well, it's
stunning.
In my mind's eye for Luthor on the Superman show, I always thought of him as being straight up Telly Savalas on Her Majesty's Secret Service, where he played Blofeld. And what was interesting about Telly as Blofeld was that he was a guy in that particular story who was kind of a thug and kind of a criminal, but he really aspired to be like, royalty. Yeah, that was one of the linchpins of the story, was that he was like trying to prove that he was actually, from a royal line. And so it was like this guy who was kind of a criminal and kind of a thug, but had aspirations to be something more, and that totally fit in with what we were doing with Lex's part in the Superman show. And Clancy he didn't sound anything like Telly Savalas, but he had this brutality to his voice. He could easily become brutal, but at the same time he's very suave and very elegant. So it was like, wow, it was exactly what we wanted for Luthor. So it was just like,
I had not seen any of the Highlander work before I had cast him.
He's scary.
And then I saw it and I was like, I waited the next time to direct him with the whole man. I had no idea of what you're capable of. It was really scary.
Crazy, but he's got a huge range too. He can play like the dad on Earth 2 or whatever.
He's Mr. Krabs on SpongeBob SquarePants. It's just a completely different character.
Well, again, that's one of the fun things about having him in Public Enemies is that he starts off kind of like our Lex from the Superman and the Justice League show. Where he ends up at the end of the show is so out there. He's crazier than he ever got to be on our Superman and Justice League shows. I mean, it's Looney Tunes.
It is.
And he rocks it. It's
believable.
Oh, it's totally believable. But he's funny and kind of scary and kind of menacing. But he's really very funny. I mean,
he is.
People don't realize how good a comedian or how good a comedic actor he is. He's great.
Truly, very funny.
I mean, for me as a fan, I mean, I've been watching, I want to say like all of your work my whole life because I was not a kid when the first Batman show was out. I was definitely, almost, pubescent. But the no, I'm way older than that. But no, but
thank you for that image. Thanks a
lot. But I mean, this is an amazing group here that you guys have worked together this long. They've turned out, consistently phenomenal work. And
Thank you.
Turning out more and more great work. So that must feel pretty good, right?
To be a part of this team for all these years has been such a privilege. Really, I'm a lucky actor.
We're lucky to have you.
Because you're the guys who created. You're just the voice guy.
It's a team effort. It's absolutely a team effort. There are so many people involved in making happen what we do. It's just remarkable. It requires so many people. I don't know that everybody knows how many people contribute to making any individual piece that we make, and everybody's got to be firing on all cylinders to make it happen.
It is a huge number of people.
It is.
Who contribute
all over the
talent.
world.
Yeah.
All over the world.
It is a huge
making
project.
it happen.
I know.
I mean, Kevin, have you ever had any desire to sort of, see what your Superman would be like, to try your voice at Superman or one of the other major characters?
Wow,
I mean,
what a cool idea.
Never done that.
Oh, I mean, Bruce is right to an extent that there's probably a large preponderance of people who think that Batman is the coolest guy in the DC universe, and for some reason, a lot of sort of the fans in our society tend to relate more to Batman.
And you never really know exactly what he's going to do because he is
He's unpredictable.
Human.
Absolutely.
Unpredictable. That's interesting. That's really interesting. I think that's relatable. You kind of know what Superman's going to do, unless something weird is happening to Superman, like he's being affected by kryptonite or something. You kind of know what he's going to do. He's going to do the right thing. Batman, when you see him, going to make a decision, you're not sure which way he's going to go. He potentially could go the dark way.
Right.
He could.
Well, some of our best stories with Superman come out of putting him in a situation where you have to kind of test that. And this is one of those. Public Enemies is definitely one of those. There's something that happens in the last act of the story that kind of pushes him to the edge where there's a moment with him and Luthor where you kind of think, this may be the time where he actually crosses his own line and does to Luthor what people have been wanting him to do for years. So.
Which is not that preposterous an idea because the whole piece begins with Lex Luthor being president. Now that all by itself is preposterous when you think about it, and yet it works within the context of what we're doing.
No
kidding.
I was going to say a jerk becoming president.
I know. But
industrialists who tank companies.
Okay, let's not be specific.
But I truly did not. I was not aware of this story before I began working on it, and so as we were beginning that arc in the Justice League of Lex Luthor potentially becoming president, I was like, where is this going? Where does this come from? And then, as you see, as we begin this piece that Public Enemies, where you see that the world is really falling apart and the economy has fallen to whatever, and there's crime everywhere, and they turn to what they think is going to be the way to help
smartest guy in the room.
The smartest guy in the room. It happens to be Lex Luthor. So the idea that at the end something really dreadful happening that Superman does is not that preposterous.
Right.
It creates a nice dramatic tension. Yeah.
Wow, well, this has been really fun.
Yeah.
And it was a really good meal, so thank you guys
Thank you.
all
Thank you, everybody.
My pleasure
being a part of
entirely.
We did this more often.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right, and we should tell the audience if they buy 6 of these, maybe they'll get a chance to have their own dinner with each other.
All right, then.
All right, guys.
Great.
Thank
I gotta
you.
get out of here.
Good night.
Yep.
All right.
Good night, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Break the table.
Bruce, are you going to pick up the tab?
No.